The shuttle landed at Denver Spaceport with a soft thud that made all 5 alien students grab their seats in terror. What humans called a smooth landing felt like a controlled crash to beings from worlds where gravity was gentle and air was thick. HFY pressed his crystalline body against the window and stared at the blue sky above Earth. On his home moon of Valaris, the sky was always black with stars. This bright blue color hurt his eyes, and the white clouds moved too fast in the wind. The weather report said it was a pleasant spring day, with temperatures of 72 degrees and light winds. To HFY, those light winds looked strong, enough to shatter his crystal skin into 1,000 pieces. "The atmosphere readings are wrong," whispered Thrum, the insect-like Korthak student. His 6 arms shook as he checked his breathing device for the 3rd time. "The oxygen is only 21%. How can anything live in such thin air?" On his jungle world, the air was thick and rich with 31% oxygen. Earth's air felt like trying to breathe on a mountaintop. Wisp, the gaseous Etherian, floated near the ceiling of the shuttle. Even inside the ship, Earth's gravity pulled at her cloud-like body in ways that felt uncomfortable. "The pressure readings show we are at sea level," she said in her voice that sounded like wind through leaves. "But this pressure is crushing me. How do humans walk around in this?" Klex, the blue-scaled aquatic being, sat in his mobile water tank that kept his gills wet. His large eyes looked worried as he read the data on his tablet. "The surface water on this planet contains minerals that would poison most life forms. The salt levels alone could kill my entire family." His homeworld had pure, clean oceans that stayed the same temperature all year long. Nira, whose plant-like body swayed with natural grace, was the most scared of all. "The radiation," she whispered, pointing at the bright sunlight streaming through the windows. "That star puts out radiation that would burn my leaves in minutes. How does anything grow here?" The shuttle door opened with a hiss, and the alien students smelled Earth air for the first time. It was full of strange scents: plants, dirt, something called car exhaust, and 1,000 other things their sensitive noses had never experienced. The air moved constantly, never still, never predictable. A human walked up to their shuttle, wearing clothes that shocked all 5 students. He had on simple brown boots, dark green pants with many pockets, and a thin white shirt that covered only his chest and arms. No protective suit, no breathing mask, no radiation shield. He walked in the deadly Earth environment like it was completely safe. "Welcome to Earth," the human said with a big smile. "I'm Jake Morrison, your survival instructor. Hope you had a good flight." HFY could not speak. This human was standing in direct sunlight that would crack crystal skin, breathing air that was barely thick enough to sustain life, and wearing clothes that provided almost no protection from the elements. Yet Jake looked completely comfortable, even happy. "Survival instructor?" Thrum managed to ask through his breathing device. "Are we in danger?" Jake laughed, which was another shock. The sound was loud and came from deep in his chest without any breathing assistance. "Danger? No, this is just Colorado. Beautiful day, actually. Perfect weather for hiking." He pointed toward the mountains in the distance. "I just finished my morning run up Mount Evans. Great view from 14,000 feet. The alien students looked at each other with growing horror. This human had just told them he ran up a mountain, nearly 3 miles high for fun. In an atmosphere they could barely breathe. In radiation that would kill them in hours. In weather conditions their people would consider an environmental disaster. You climbed a mountain this morning?" Wisp asked, her gaseous form flickering with disbelief. "Just a quick jog," Jake said, adjusting the pack on his back. "Takes about 3 hours up, 2 hours down. I like to get some exercise before work." He looked at their shocked faces and his smile faded a little. "Are you folks feeling okay? You look a bit stressed." Stressed was not the right word. The 5 students were beginning to understand that their academic records might have made a terrible mistake. Earth was supposed to be a death world in the official files, but surely no university would be built on a planet that was actually dangerous. Surely no intelligent species would live somewhere that required survival skills just to walk outside. A second human approached their group. This one was female. wearing similar light clothing and carrying what looked like a bag of books. She had dark hair tied back in a simple style and walked with the same confident ease as Jake. "Professor Amy Collins," she said, reaching out her hand in what the students had learned was a human greeting called a handshake. None of them dared to touch her exposed skin. "I'll be teaching your biology classes this semester. We have so much to show you about Earth's life forms." Amy opened her bag and pulled out several data tablets. "I thought we'd start with an overview of biodiversity. Earth has over 8 million different species, many of them adapted to what other worlds would consider extreme environments." She showed them pictures on her tablet as she spoke. The first image showed worms living in water so hot it would boil the blood of every student watching. These tube worms live near volcanic vents on the ocean floor. The water temperature is over 700 degrees. Klex made a choking sound in his water tank. The next picture showed tiny creatures that looked like water bears. "Tardigrades," Amy said cheerfully. "They can survive in the vacuum of space, in temperatures from near absolute zero to over 300 degrees, and in radiation levels that would sterilize most planets." Nira began to sway more quickly, a sign of extreme stress in her species. "And here we have extremophile bacteria that live in acid pools," Amy continued, not noticing how pale her students had become. "The acid would dissolve metal, but these little guys just love it." Jake checked his watch. "We should probably get you folks to the university. There's a welcome ceremony at 2 o'clock, and I want to show you around campus before then." As they walked toward the transport vehicles, the alien students tried to process what they were learning. Humans lived on a planet where the normal life forms could survive in conditions that would instantly kill most galactic species. They walked around in environmental conditions that required no protection, no special equipment, no life support systems. The worst part was how normal it all seemed to the humans. Jake and Amy acted like living on Earth was the most natural thing in the universe. They talked about climbing mountains and studying deadly organisms the way other species might discuss a peaceful day in a garden. Zeph High looked up at the blue sky again, watching white clouds race across it in the dangerous wind. Somewhere, up there, beyond the atmosphere that could barely support life, were the safe, quiet, predictable worlds where he and his classmates had grown up. Worlds where the air was clean, the weather was stable, and survival was never in question. But now they were here, on Earth, trying to understand how any species could not just survive in such conditions, but actually choose to live here, build universities here, and call it home. The transport vehicle arrived and Jake held the door open for them. "Hop in," he said with that same easy smile. "Wait until you see what we have planned for tomorrow. We're going to start with basic wilderness survival skills." All 5 alien students looked at each other with the same thought. If this was what humans considered normal, they were beginning to understand why Earth had earned its reputation as a death world. The classroom at Terra Nova University looked normal enough to the alien students. Chairs, desks, windows, and a large screen at the front. But as they sat down for their first lesson with Jake Morrison, they noticed things that made them uncomfortable. The windows had no protective shields against the deadly radiation outside. The air moved freely through vents connected to the outside atmosphere. Most shocking of all, the temperature was set to what humans called comfortable but felt like a barely controlled environment to the visitors. Jake stood at the front of the room wearing the same casual clothes from yesterday. No protective gear, no breathing apparatus, no radiation sensors. He looked at his 5 alien students and smiled that easy human smile. "Today we start with the basics of wilderness survival," Jake said, placing a clear container of water on the desk. "First lesson is how to make water safe to drink." The alien students looked at each other nervously. On their worlds, water was simply water. It came from reliable sources and was always safe. The idea that water could be dangerous was new to them. Now this water came from a mountain stream. Jake continued, holding up the container. "Looks clean, right? But it might contain bacteria, parasites, or other harmful organisms, so we need to purify it." Zephai raised one of his crystal appendages. "You mean the water on Earth is naturally contaminated?" "Not contaminated exactly," Jake said, "just full of life. Microorganisms live everywhere on Earth. Most are harmless, but some can make you sick if you drink them. The 5 students stared at the water container with new horror. Their homeworlds had sterile water systems. The idea that Earth water was full of life sounded like a description of toxic waste. Jake picked up what looked like a simple metal container. The easiest way to purify water is to boil it. Heat kills most harmful organisms. He opened a valve on a small device and suddenly flames appeared. Klex screamed and dove under his desk, his water tank sloshing wildly. Fire was unknown on his ocean world. To see someone casually create flames in a classroom was like watching someone detonate a bomb. "It's okay," Jake said, not understanding why his student was terrified. "This is just a portable camping stove. We use these all the time when we're hiking." Thrum's 6 arms were shaking as he pointed at the flames. "You carry devices that make fire while walking in nature?" "Sure," Jake said, as if this was the most normal thing in the universe. "Fire is one of our basic tools. We use it for cooking, staying warm, purifying water, and signaling for help." He placed the container of water over the flames. Water boils. At 212 degrees Fahrenheit, that's hot enough to kill most dangerous organisms. Wisp flickered with shock. "You heat water until it turns to gas, and then you drink it?" "Well, we let it cool down first," Jake laughed. "But yes, that's the basic idea." As the water began to bubble and steam, Neera swayed backward in her chair. The temperature in the room had risen several degrees just from the small flame. On her garden world, temperature never changed quickly. This rapid heating felt like being inside a furnace. Jake turned off the flame and set the hot water aside. "Boiling is just one method. We can also use purification tablets." He dropped a small white disc into another container of water. "These release chemicals that kill harmful organisms." He handed the container to Thrum, who looked at it like it contained poison. "The chemicals in those tablets would be considered weapons of war on my world," Thrum whispered. "Really?" Jake looked surprised. "They're just chlorine compounds. We use similar chemicals to keep swimming pools clean." The alien students exchanged horrified looks. Humans intentionally swam in water treated with chemical weapons. They created fire for recreation. They drank liquids heated to temperatures that would cause severe burns to alien tissue. Jake continued his lesson, completely unaware of his students' growing terror. "Another method is UV sterilization." He pulled out a device that looked like a simple tube. "This uses ultraviolet light to kill organisms in the water." He turned on the device and it began glowing with the same type of radiation that streamed down from Earth's deadly sun. All 5 students immediately put on their protective eyewear and moved as far from the device as possible. "That radiation level would cause immediate cell damage to most life forms," HFY said through his protective face shield. Jake looked at the small UV device in his hand. "This little thing? It's barely putting out any UV. You can buy these at any camping store." "Camping store?" Wisp asked weakly. "Yeah, stores that sell equipment for outdoor recreation. Tents, sleeping bags, cooking gear, water purifiers. Everything you need to live in the wilderness for fun." The word fun hit the alien students like a physical blow. Humans did not just survive in Earth's hostile environment by accident. They chose to go into even more dangerous places for entertainment. Jake set down the UV device and picked up what looked like a simple cloth. "The last method I'll show you today is filtration. You can make a basic filter using sand, gravel, and charcoal." He began building a simple water filter using materials that looked like they came from the ground outside. As he worked, he explained how different layers removed different types of contamination. "The key is understanding that Earth water is never really pure," Jake said as he poured dirty water through his improvised filter. "There's always something living in it, something dissolved in it, or something mixed with it. That's just how water works on our planet." Klex slowly emerged from under his desk, still shaking. "On my world, water is water. It never changes. It never contains other things. It's always safe." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "That sounds nice, but it would be boring for us. We like the challenge of making water safe. It keeps us sharp." He liked the challenge. The human actually enjoyed the fact that his planet's water could kill him if he wasn't careful. Amy Collins entered the classroom carrying a large bag and wearing her usual light clothing. "Good morning, everyone. Ready for our biology walk?" The alien students looked at each other with dread. A walk meant going outside. Outside meant exposure to Earth's hostile environment. "We're just going to visit the campus garden," Amy said cheerfully. "I want to show you some basic Earth plant life." Jake gathered up his water purification equipment. "Sounds great. This will be good practice for identifying safe water sources in the field." As they prepared to leave the classroom, the 5 alien students realized something that chilled them to their cores. The humans weren't teaching them how to survive on Earth because it was dangerous. They were teaching them because Earth was so dangerous that survival skills were considered basic education. Every human child learned these things. Every human adult carried fire-making tools, knew how to purify contaminated water, and understood how to identify harmful organisms. These weren't special military skills or advanced scientific knowledge. This was just normal life on Earth. HFY looked out the window at the campus garden where Amy wanted to take them. It looked peaceful enough, green plants growing in neat rows under the bright sun. But now he knew better. Those plants were growing in soil full of unknown organisms, under radiation that could kill, in an atmosphere that barely supported life, and humans called it a garden, a place of beauty and peace. As they walked toward the door, Jake casually mentioned, "Oh, and bring your water bottles. It gets warm outside and dehydration can sneak up on you pretty quickly in this altitude." Dehydration, another way Earth could kill you without warning. The alien students checked their emergency supplies one more time and followed their instructors outside, wondering what other casual death traps they would discover in what humans called their peaceful campus garden. The campus garden looked like a green paradise from inside the safety of the classroom building. Neat rows of plants grew under the bright Earth sun, with stone paths winding between flower beds. To human eyes, it was a peaceful place for study and relaxation. To the 5 alien students, it looked like a field of unknown dangers waiting to attack. Amy Collins walked ahead of the group, wearing her usual light clothes and carrying nothing but a simple notebook. She moved through the garden like she owned it, completely unafraid of the alien plant life surrounding her on all sides. "This is our botanical teaching garden," Amy said, stopping beside a bed of red flowers. "We grow plants from all over Earth here so students can study different species." The alien students stayed clustered together on the stone path, afraid to get too close to any of the vegetation. Each plant represented a completely unknown life form that had evolved on this dangerous world. Who knew what defenses they might have developed? Amy knelt down next to a bush covered in beautiful red flowers. "These are roses. They're very popular on Earth for their beauty and smell." She reached toward one of the flowers. "Professor Collins, wait," HFY shouted, his crystal body flashing with alarm colors. "You should scan it first for toxins." Amy looked confused as she touched the rose gently. "Toxins? These are just roses, though I suppose you should watch out for the thorns." She lifted a stem to show them sharp, pointed spikes growing along its length. All 5 alien students jumped backward. The plant was armed with natural weapons. "You grow combat plants in your garden?" Thrum asked, his 6 arms ready to defend himself. Amy laughed. "Combat plants, they're just thorns. They protect the rose from being eaten by animals. Most Earth plants have some kind of defense system." She walked to the next section of the garden, where green plants grew in organized rows. "This is our herb section. We grow plants that humans use for cooking and medicine." She picked a leaf from one plant and crushed it between her fingers. A strong smell filled the air that made all the alien students feel dizzy. "This is mint. We use it to flavor food and drinks." Nira swayed dangerously. "That chemical compound would require specialized liver functions to process safely. How do humans consume it without poisoning themselves?" "We just eat it," Amy said, not understanding the problem. "A little mint tea is very refreshing on a hot day." She moved to another plant and pulled off several leaves. "This is basil, great for cooking." The smell was different but equally strong to the sensitive alien noses. "And this is oregano, and over here we have thyme and rosemary." Amy walked through the herb garden naming plants and picking leaves like she was shopping for groceries. Each plant released chemical compounds that made the alien students feel sick. Jake joined them from another part of the garden, carrying an armload of branches. "Found some good firewood," he said casually. "Thought we might have a little cookout." Later, Klex made a terrified sound from inside his water tank. "You're going to create fire near all these plants?" "Sure," Jake said. "We'll use the fire pit over there." He pointed to a circle of stones with black ash inside it. "We have cookouts here all the time. Great way to enjoy the outdoors." Amy led them deeper into the garden where larger plants grew. "These are our fruit trees," she said, standing under a tree heavy with red objects. "Apple trees are very common on Earth." She reached up and picked one of the red objects from the tree. It was the size of her fist and looked solid enough to cause serious injury. "Anyone want to try a fresh apple?" The alien student stared in horror. The tree was dropping heavy objects that could cause concussions or broken bones, and humans stood under these trees voluntarily. "The fruit falls from the trees when it's ripe," Amy explained, seeing their shocked faces. "Sometimes you have to be careful walking under apple trees in the fall." "You have to be careful of falling fruit?" Wisp asked in disbelief. "Well, you don't want to get bonked on the head," Amy said with a smile. "Though it's not usually dangerous, unless you're really unlucky." She bit into the apple with her teeth, making a loud crunching sound. Juice ran down her chin as she chewed. Delicious, nothing beats fresh fruit. The alien students watched in amazement as their professor consumed part of a plant that had just been growing in the ground. No processing, no safety testing, no purification. She just ate it. As they walked deeper into the garden, they began to notice other things that terrified them. Small flying creatures buzzed through the air around the flowers. Amy called them bees, and explained that they were mostly harmless unless you bother them. The idea that the air was full of flying creatures with stinging weapons was bad enough. The fact that humans considered them mostly harmless was worse. "Bees are actually very important," Amy continued, watching a large bee land on a flower near her hand. "They pollinate the plants, which allows them to reproduce." The bee was close enough to sting her, but Amy didn't move away. She watched it work like it was a fascinating show instead of a dangerous predator. More flying creatures appeared as they walked. Amy pointed out butterflies, which looked harmless enough, and flies, which she said were a bit annoying, but not dangerous. She also mentioned mosquitoes, which she described as tiny vampires that drink blood. "Vampires?" Sci-Fi's crystal body began to shake. "There are vampires in your garden?" "Just tiny ones," Amy said. "Mosquito bites are itchy, but they won't hurt you unless they carry disease." Disease-carrying vampires, flying through the air around humans who considered them a minor annoyance. Jake set his firewood down near the stone circle and began arranging it. "Weather looks perfect for a fire," he said, looking up at the sky. "Those clouds might bring a little rain later, but that's good for the plants." "Rain?" Thrum looked up at the white clouds moving across the blue sky. "Water falling from the sky?" "Sure," Jake said. "That's how plants get most of their water on Earth. Rain, snow, sleet, hail. Precipitation comes in lots of forms here." The alien students realized that Earth's weather was not just unpredictable, it was actively hostile. Water fell from the sky without warning. The temperature could change rapidly. The wind could increase to dangerous levels at any time. Amy picked up a small brown object from under one of the trees. "Look at this acorn. Oak trees drop thousands of these every fall." She tossed the acorn to Jake, who caught it easily. The small brown object was hard and heavy enough to cause pain if it hit someone. Trees on Earth dropped these objects like natural artillery shells. "We used to have acorn fights when we were kids," Jake said with a nostalgic smile, "until someone got a black eye and our parents made us stop. They had childhood games involving throwing natural weapons at each other, for fun." As if summoned by their thoughts, a large four-legged creature appeared from behind some bushes. It had brown and white fur, a long tail, and looked like it weighed as much as 3 alien students combined. All 5 students immediately activated their emergency beacons and huddled together in terror. A wild predator had found them in the garden. "Hey there, Max," Jake said warmly. "Did you get loose again?" The creature ran toward Jake with its mouth open, showing large white teeth. The alien students prepared for the worst. But instead of attacking, the creature began making happy sounds and rubbing against Jake's legs. Jake scratched behind its ears and spoke to it in gentle tones. "This is Max," Jake said to his terrified students. "He belongs to Ben Parker, one of our professors. He's a golden retriever." A pet?" Wisp managed to ask. "Best friend a human can have," Jake said as Max licked his hand with a large pink tongue. "Dogs have been living with humans for thousands of years." The alien students stared at the large predator that humans kept in their homes by choice. It had powerful jaws, sharp claws, excellent senses, and the instincts of a pack hunter. And humans called it their best friend. Amy checked her watch. "We should probably head back inside. I want to show you some slides of Earth's more interesting plant species." As they walked back toward the building, the alien students tried to process what they had learned. Earth's peaceful garden was full of armed plants, chemical weapons, falling objects, flying vampires, and domesticated predators. The humans walked through it all like it was the safest place in the universe. Jake carried his firewood, planning to create controlled explosions for entertainment. Amy carried her notebook full of information about plants that could poison most galactic life forms. Max the pet followed them, wagging his tail and looking for more humans to befriend. "Next week we'll take a longer walk," Amy said as they reached the building. "There's a nice trail through the foothills that shows off more of Earth's natural beauty." The alien students looked at each other with the same thought. If this garden was what humans considered safe and peaceful, what would they find on a trail through the natural beauty of Earth's wilderness? Lisa Hart arrived at the university the next morning wearing a bright yellow jacket with reflective strips and carrying a large bag full of equipment. She was the emergency response coordinator, and the alien students had been told she would show them around the human facilities on campus. "Good morning, everyone," Lisa said with the same cheerful human smile they had learned to fear. "Today we're going to tour some of the places where humans spend their daily lives. I thought you might be interested in seeing how we've adapted to living on Earth." The 5 alien students looked at each other nervously. Every time humans showed them something normal, it turned out to be more dangerous than anything on their homeworlds. Lisa led them first to the main cafeteria, a large room filled with tables where hundreds of human students sat eating food. The smell hit the alien visitors immediately. Dozens of different chemical compounds mixing in the air, many of them strong enough to cause headaches. "This is where our students eat their meals," Lisa explained, walking toward a long counter with food displayed behind glass. "We serve food from all over Earth, so students can try different cultures." Amy Collins met them at the entrance to the serving area. "I thought I'd help explain some of Earth's food diversity," she said. "Food is a great way to understand how humans have adapted to different environments." She pointed to a large metal container with steam rising from it. "This is soup. We heat it to about 160 degrees before serving." Zephai's crystal body flickered with shock. "You consume liquids at temperatures that would cause immediate tissue damage." "It's not that hot once it cools down a little," Amy said. "Though you do have to be careful not to burn your tongue." She moved to another section where a human was adding small amounts of colored powder to food. "These are spices," Amy explained. "Pepper, cayenne, paprika, curry powder. They add flavor to our food." Thrum watched in horror as the human sprinkled red powder on his meal. "Those compounds are used as non-lethal weapons on my world. They cause severe respiratory distress and temporary blindness." "Really?" Amy looked interested. "Humans actually enjoy the burning sensation. We call food spicy when it causes mild pain while eating." The alien students stared at her. Humans enjoyed food that caused pain. They ate it on purpose. Lisa guided them to another section where students were drinking dark liquid from large cups. "This is our coffee station. Coffee is very popular with human students, especially during exam periods." She poured herself a cup of the dark liquid and took a drink. "Nothing like caffeine to help you stay awake during long study sessions. Caffeine is a central nervous system stimulant. Wisp said weakly. It would cause dangerous heart rhythms in most species. Yeah, it definitely gets your heart pumping, Lisa agreed. Some humans drink 4 or 5 cups a day. 4 or 5 doses of what other species considered a dangerous stimulant. Per day, for fun. They moved to another area where students were, consuming white liquid from glasses. Milk, Amy explained. It comes from earth animals called cows. You drink bodily fluids from other species? Klex asked from his water tank, sounding sick. Well, when you put it that way, it sounds weird, Amy admitted. But milk is very nutritious, high in calcium for strong bones. The alien students watched. Human after human consume heated poisons, chemical weapons, dangerous stimulants, and bodily fluids from other species, all while talking and laughing like it was completely normal. Lisa led them out of the cafeteria and toward another building. Next stop is our fitness center. Physical exercise is very important for human health. The fitness center was a large room filled with metal devices that looked like torture equipment. Humans were using these devices to stress their bodies in ways that seemed designed to cause injury. This is our weight training area, Lisa explained, walking toward a section where humans were lifting heavy metal objects. Strength training helps build muscle and bone density. One human was lying on a bench with a metal bar loaded with circular weights above his chest. Another human stood nearby watching as the first human pushed the heavy bar up and down repeatedly. How much weight is he lifting? Nira asked, swaying with distress. Lisa checked the weights on the bar. About 200 pounds. That's fairly typical for someone his size. 200 pounds. Enough weight to crush most alien bones instantly. And humans lifted it repeatedly for entertainment. They moved to another section where humans were running, on moving platforms that went nowhere. Their heart rates were elevated, they were breathing heavily, and water poured from their skin. Cardiovascular exercise, Lisa explained. Running, cycling, rowing. It strengthens the heart and lungs. They're pushing their heart rates into the danger zone, Zephi observed, watching the displays on the machines. Those readings would indicate medical emergencies on my world. Oh, that's normal, Lisa said. Humans regularly push their bodies to their limits. It makes us stronger. In another area, humans were engaged in what could only be described as combat. They wore protective gear and struck each other with padded weapons or grappled on mats trying to force each other into submission. Martial arts training, Lisa explained. Self-defense and sport combat. Very popular among our students. Dudduran. Alien students watched humans voluntarily fight each other, using techniques designed to cause maximum damage to opponents, and they smiled while doing it. Lisa led them to the final section, where humans were climbing artificial rock walls that stretched toward the ceiling. They hung from small holds with nothing but thin ropes to catch them if they fell. Rock climbing, Lisa said. Great exercise, and it prepares students for outdoor climbing on real mountains. Real mountains? Thrum asked in a small voice. Sure, Colorado has some of the best climbing in the world. Students often spend weekends climbing peaks over 14,000 feet high. For fun, humans climbed mountains that reached into the thin upper atmosphere, where the air was even thinner and the temperature could kill. For recreation. As they left the fitness center, Lisa checked her radio. Looks like we have a small medical situation in the dormitories. Nothing serious, just a student who tried to cook something and gave himself minor burns. She spoke about burns like they were a normal part of daily life. Students regularly injured themselves just trying to prepare food. The dormitory building looked normal enough from the outside, but as they entered, the alien students realized they were seeing how humans actually lived when they thought they were safe. Lisa showed them a typical student room. It was small, with 2 beds, 2 desks, and a window that opened directly to the outside atmosphere. No airlock, no filtration system, no emergency equipment. Students sleep here with nothing between them and the hostile environment, but a thin sheet of glass, Wisp asked in disbelief. The windows open for fresh air, Lisa explained, demonstrating how the window slid upward. Outside air flowed freely into the room, bringing with it pollen, pollutants, and changing temperatures. The bathroom contained plumbing that brought water directly from Earth's contaminated surface sources. The water pressure was strong enough to cause injury, and the temperature could be adjusted to levels that would cause burns. Students share bathrooms, Lisa explained, usually 4 to 6 people per bathroom. It teaches them to cooperate and adapt. Adapt. Humans were constantly adapting to dangerous conditions, even in the places where they lived. As they finished the tour, Lisa's radio crackled again. "We have a weather alert, thunderstorm approaching campus. Students should avoid outdoor activities for the next few hours." She spoke about a weather alert the way other species might discuss a minor scheduling change. Dangerous atmospheric conditions were just another part of daily life on Earth. "Thunderstorms are pretty common here in spring," Lisa told her alien visitors. "Lightning, heavy rain, high winds, sometimes hail. The students are used to it." The alien students looked out the windows at the dark clouds gathering on the horizon. Lightning was natural electrical discharge powerful enough to kill most life forms instantly. Hail was ice falling from the sky like frozen artillery. High winds could knock down structures and turn loose objects into projectiles. And human students just waited indoors until it passed, then went back to their normal activities. As they walked back toward their own quarters, the 5 alien visitors tried to understand what they had learned. Humans lived in buildings with minimal protection from the environment. They ate foods that would poison most galactic species. They exercised by damaging their own bodies. They slept with nothing but glass between them and the deadly atmosphere. Most shocking of all, they did these things because they enjoyed them. Human culture had evolved to find pleasure in activities that would terrify most intelligent species. The storm was getting closer, and the first drops of rain began to fall. Lisa pulled up her hood and walked faster, but she didn't seem afraid. Just slightly inconvenienced by the approaching electrical storm that could kill them all in seconds. "Tomorrow we'll visit some of the academic buildings," she called over the rising wind. "I think you'll find our laboratories very interesting." The alien students hurried toward their shelter, wondering what new horrors they would discover in places where humans conducted scientific research on a death world. The final day of the alien students' first week on Earth began with another normal morning that terrified them. The thunderstorm had passed during the night, leaving the air clean and fresh according to the humans. To the 5 visitors, the atmosphere felt charged with dangerous energy and smelled of chemicals released by the electrical activity. Jake Morrison met them outside their dormitory wearing his usual casual clothes, completely unbothered by the fact that lightning had been striking the ground just hours earlier. "Ready for our final presentation day?" he asked with his typical human smile. The alien students had spent the week preparing their reports on what they had learned about Earth's Deathworld classification. Each had tried to understand how humans not only survived on their planet, but seemed to enjoy the constant danger. Amy Collins joined them carrying a tablet and looking excited. "I can't wait to hear your observations. Your perspective on Earth life has been fascinating to watch." They walked to the presentation room, passing students who were already outside enjoying the beautiful morning. Humans were jogging, playing with flying discs, and sitting on the grass reading books. All activities that required direct exposure to radiation, unpredictable weather, and an atmosphere that barely supported life. The presentation room had large windows showing the mountains in the distance, those same mountains that Jake climbed for fun, where the air was too thin to breathe and the weather could change from sunny to deadly in minutes. HFY went first, his crystal body reflecting the morning light as he activated his presentation display. "My research has focused on Earth's environmental variability," he began. "What makes this planet a death world is not any single extreme condition, but the constant change in all conditions." He showed data comparing Earth to his home moon of Valaris. "On my world, temperature varies by 2 degrees over an entire year. On Earth, temperature can change by 30 degrees in a single day. On my world, weather is predictable for centuries. On Earth, storms can appear in hours and change everything." His voice grew stronger as he continued. "Humans do not just survive these changes. They have developed psychology that treats unpredictability as normal. They make plans knowing conditions will change. They carry equipment for situations that may never happen. They consider adaptation to be a basic life skill." Thrum went next, his 6 arms moving nervously as he spoke. I studied human physical capabilities. Humans are not the strongest or fastest species in the galaxy, but they are the most persistent. On my world, we solve problems by finding the perfect solution once. Humans solve problems by trying many solutions until something works. He showed video of Jake demonstrating different ways to purify water. Humans always have backup plans. If fire does not work, they use chemicals. If chemicals do not work, they use radiation. If radiation does not work, they use filters. They never rely on just one method because Earth has taught them that any method can fail. Wisp floated near the ceiling as she gave her presentation, her gaseous form shimmering with emotion. I focused on human social adaptation. Most species develop society to avoid challenges. Humans develop society to share challenges. She displayed images from the fitness center where humans helped each other lift dangerous weights. When one human faces a problem that could kill them, other humans volunteer to help. They do not avoid danger. They face danger together. This makes them much stronger as a group than they could ever be alone. Klex spoke from his water tank, his voice filled with wonder. I studied human relationship with their environment. Most species try to control their environment to make it safe. Humans accept that their environment will always be dangerous, so they learn to be dangerous too. He showed pictures of the campus garden where Amy had casually handled armed plants and chemical weapons. Humans do not fear their world because they have become part of it. They eat plants that could poison other species because their bodies have adapted. They live with predator animals because they understand predator psychology. They are not separate from Earth's danger. They have become Earth's danger. Finally, Nira swayed gently as she presented her conclusions. I studied why humans call their activities fun and recreation. What I discovered changed my understanding of intelligence itself. She displayed charts showing human stress responses compared to other species. When most species encounter stress, they try to eliminate it as quickly as possible. When humans encounter stress, they analyze it, learn from it, and then seek similar stress voluntarily. Her plant-like voice grew excited. Humans climb mountains not because they have to, but because mountains teach them things they cannot learn anywhere else. They eat spicy food not because they must, but because controlled pain makes them appreciate other sensations more. They exercise until their bodies hurt, because stress makes their bodies stronger. Jake and Amy listened to each presentation with growing amazement. They had never thought of their normal lives as particularly impressive or dangerous. When all 5 students had finished, Amy stood up to respond. I have to ask, do you really think Earth is that dangerous? We just live here. We don't think about it being difficult. HFY answered for all of them. Professor Collins, that is exactly what makes humans remarkable. You live on a planet that would kill most galactic species within days, and you think it is normal. You have adapted so completely to deadly conditions that you forget they are deadly. Jake scratched his head, looking confused. But every planet has challenges. How do other species handle problems on their worlds? They avoid them, Thrum explained. If there is a dangerous area, we mark it as forbidden and never go there. If there is dangerous weather, we stay inside until it passes. If there is dangerous food, we eliminate it from our diet. We solve problems by avoiding them. But that means you miss out on so much, Amy said. Some of our best discoveries come from exploring dangerous places. Some of our best foods come from plants that are slightly toxic. Some of our strongest people come from places with harsh weather. Wisp flickered with understanding. That is the difference. You see danger as opportunity. We see danger as something to escape. Ben Parker entered the room carrying his usual pack and wearing hiking boots. Sorry I'm late. Just got back from a quick climb up Mount Blue Sky. Beautiful sunrise from 14,000 feet. He had casually mentioned climbing nearly 3 miles into the sky before breakfast, in conditions that would instantly kill most of the students in the room. And he described it as beautiful. Ryan Blake, the administrator, reviewed his notes from the week. Based on your presentations, I think we need to update our exchange program protocols. It seems we've been accidentally exposing you to more danger than we realized. No, Nira said quickly. This danger is exactly what we needed to learn about. We understand now why Earth is classified as a death world, and why humans are so different from other galactic species. Klex floated closer to the surface of his tank. The classification is not meant to keep others away from Earth. It is meant to help them understand what Earth produces. Humans are not dangerous because they want to hurt others. Humans are dangerous because they are adapted to survive anything. Jake finally understood what his students had been trying to tell him all week. You think we're dangerous? Not dangerous like weapons, SciFi explained. Dangerous like natural forces. A mountain is not evil, but it can kill you if you are not prepared. Humans are the same. You are not aggressive, but you are capable of surviving things that would destroy entire civilizations. Amy looked out the window at the mountains where humans went for recreation. So when other species see humans, they see survivors of impossible conditions. Survivors who turn survival into entertainment, Thrum added. That is what makes humans unique in the galaxy. Every other species that faces deadly conditions either dies or learns to avoid the danger. Humans learn to find joy in the danger itself. As the presentation ended, the 5 alien students looked at their human instructors with new respect. Jake Morrison was not just a survival instructor. He was a master of skills that most species needed entire teams of specialists to perform. Amy Collins was not just a biology teacher. She was an expert on life forms that could kill most galactic species with casual contact. The week had taught them that the Death World classification was not an insult or a warning to stay away. It was recognition that Earth had produced something unique in the galaxy, a species that not only survived impossible conditions but thrived in them. Outside the window, human students continued their normal activities. Playing, studying, exercising, and enjoying life on a planet that would be considered uninhabitable by most of galactic civilization. The alien students finally understood why humans were both welcomed and carefully monitored by other species. Not because humans were hostile, but because they represented something that challenged every other species' understanding of what life could endure. As they prepared to continue their semester on Earth, all 5 students felt a new emotion: excitement. If humans could find joy in the deadly challenges of their world, perhaps the alien students could learn to see danger as opportunity too. After all, they had survived their first week on a death world. Maybe they were stronger than they had thought.